Alright, so in this part of our combat mage strategy analysis, I'm going to be demonstrating some of the things I talked about in my last piece with a lot of PvP footage. Now, I tried to hand select a lot of this footage so that it showed some of the strategies and tactics that I'm talking about. You can already see here I'm trying to demonstrate different strategies with the sword. One of the things I didn't really talk about very much was playing mind games with your opponent, and I think that is very important when it comes to strategically analyzing your situation in a battle. So one of the things you'll notice I do in a lot of this footage is I almost always start two-handing my sword with my parry dagger equipped as my alternate. Why I do this is because the parry dagger isn't a very pronounced item. You know, in some instances it may even look like it's part of the armor set. Okay, obviously discerning players will be able to pick it out, but what this does is it shows people that, one, I don't have any magic powers that they can see. There's no evidence of that. Okay, so this way it conceals options from my opponents. So it'll keep them guessing, in other words. I mean, if you what is one of the first things you do in a PvP fight? You look at what the other guy's using. What is his main weapon? So people see my greatsword and they're like, holy shit, you know, that's a greatsword. He's probably a strength character of some sort. You know? Maybe they might think twice when I start doing chaos damage to them. You know, but they may attribute that to something else. So that is something to consider when you're entering a fight, is what type of image are you presenting to your opponent? Another thing I want to talk about is basically how you approach an aggressive or a defensive opponent. And a lot of that does determine what type of weapon he's carrying. Like, for example, I find that katana users are way more aggressive than straight sword users to some extent. Okay. And you also have the instances of the greatsword users. Okay, greatsword is more of like a middle-of-the-road type weapon because you're trying to correctly judge distance and get that opportunity for a big hit. So, it's definitely something that you need to consider. How aggressive is your opponent? How aggressive do you need to be? Or how defensive do you need to be to counteract the opposition's attacks? So that's where having different weapons, an offhand and a main hand weapon, comes into play, because you can manipulate that tempo of the battle, and you'll try to see that in some of this footage. You know, try to pay attention in this footage. I know you're trying to listen to me too, but try to pay attention to some of the things I also talked about in the previous part 1, because a lot of those will come into play here. There is a time to be aggressive and there's a time to be passive or defensive, and figuring out what to do in those instances is very important. Actually, you'll see right here, I bring out the whip and start going on the defensive because this guy is seriously pressing very hard. He's got blood loss, he thinks he has the advantage, so what do? Bring this defensive thing out, I roll away, I do some little ninja flicks with my thing, and I try to play on the defensive here, you know, swinging my thing around a lot, trying to create distance for those little pokes. And I end up actually winning that fight because of that. So that's why being able to change your tempo is extremely important. Another thing about the greatsword, you got to use these rolling attack. You see that rolling attack there I just did? That's a really good tracking weapon. Okay? But the thing about these greatswords is they leave you open to things like this. Like Sacred Flame. Yeah, that guy's pretty much fucked now. Yeah, he's twitching around. He doesn't know what the fuck's going on. He's like, God damn it, this motherfucker. Yeah, I just whip out the whip and just finish him off. Yeah, good game. So, you know, like, that's the type of things you gotta be prepared for. Oh, this is a good fight. This one here. It's good because it's interesting. Okay, you got a heavy armored guy who's just all rocked up, and he's doing this, using the charge thing as a way for movement. But he didn't know that I had this magic when he used that, okay? So now he's like, God damn it, I am so screwed. So as soon as his shit breaks off, he starts going extremely aggressive. because he knows I can play very defensively with my magic. So you gotta manipulate the tempo in that manner, and you need to be flexible. So you can see katana users. Oh, he switched his weapon out. Usually they're very aggressive with their katana, and you gotta watch out for those run attacks that they do, because you can buffer run attacks. You know, while you're running, you can hold down the attack button, and then as long as you hold it down and have your guard up, you can unleash the run attack at any time. I don't know what this guy was trying to do, but like, he's rolling around like crazy. Look at him. He's unlocking run A. He's trying to do those annoying running attacks, trying to take advantage. Like, he's gonna buffer it again. Watch. He's gonna buffer it again. Now he's gonna try to do some bullshit. It's his running attack again. The running attack is really annoying with katana. So the nice thing about the whip is it creates a false sense of vulnerability. And that's also something you want to think about, is there are weapons out there that create that false sense of vulnerability. And what I mean by that specifically is it gives your opponent the perception that you're open for attack, when in fact you're not open for attack at all. You're merely just prepping for a counterattack to an attack that you know he's going to make. So that is always something to think about when you're fighting, and do you have any moves that let you do that? I'll give you another prime example, and this is more for those Dark Souls 2 players out there, is that, I don't know if you guys remember the murder log. It was the Great Club in the Dark Souls 2. That had a very interesting two-hand R2 moveset, where the first two-hand R2 was, you know, typical pancake vertical attack, but the follow-up attack, which took quite some time to get off, was this ridiculous spin to win that flung people around the room. And a lot of times, people did not expect that second attack to come, and you would end up hitting people with it, and it created that false sense of vulnerability. The whip is the exact same thing. I start twirling it around like an idiot, you know, and people are like, oh, it's a whip, whatever, you know, and then they get hit with something that has the same power as a two-handed R1 greatsword, you know. I mean, it's something you really need to watch out for, but, you know, the whip is a deceptive item. People see a whip and they're like, whatever, it's got long-range attacks, but it's slow to get out, you know, it's slow to recover from those. That is true, but the range is a big advantage, especially if you can change the tempo of the fight and put them on the defensive. Okay? I love being able to rip that out of nowhere by having an extra weapon. People just are not ready for it. So, remember, use those pellets. It'll help a lot for deflecting damage. This guy's going R1 spam. Looks like, what is that, Ricard's Rapier? There we go, got the parry. I'm telling you guys, Rapiers, easy mode for parries. See, look, he's so fucking defensive right now because he's like, shit, I just got owned, and this is the only weapon that I have, you know? So now look, now I'm changing the game on him. He realizes that I had the range advantage, so what does he do? He goes on a full-on offensive because he needs to get close. So that's where his failure was, right there, you know? Thinking that he had the advantage if he could get close. Here we got another R1 spammer. Or I should say not R1 spammer, but charge attack spam. See, this guy is a little bit... This was an interesting fight because he changed his weapons mid-combat. He switches between the katana and the Farron Greatsword. See, now that's what I'm talking about. That's actually kind of smart play, because he's trying to keep me guessing, and it did. If he got me with that first attack, that sliding attack with the Farron Greatsword, he probably would have won this fight. But he ended up missing that attack. Looks like the footage skipped there. I ended up killing him with that blow at the very end there. But that's why having multiple weapons is definitely beneficial. And I mean, katanas aren't too heavy, so he can use that and the other one. And still probably have enough for a decent amount of armor. Look at that rolling R1. That is a ridiculous rolling R1. If I was faster at getting that fireball out there, I could have probably tagged him with it, but it wasn't fast enough. You can trade with other folks, as you can see there, because of the hyper armor with great swords. The only thing is, usually with weapons like what he's using, you're going to be outclassed in damage. So at the end of the day, is it worth trading? Not really. It's better to switch up your tactics and try to use something else. So I did the reverse R1, rolling R1 with the whip there. That is a nasty move. It goes out so fast. It's very, very helpful. See, clearly, you know, you got to be careful too what type of armor people are wearing, because he definitely... Yeah, that fire killed you, bro. Sorry. That is a prime example of, you know, when someone's rolling towards you or against you, using that Great Chaos Fireball to your advantage. You know, and again, that's why you always want to keep this stuff hidden. You don't want to let them know you have that ability. That's your secret. That's your special move. You don't want to let people know you have it. Okay? You just want them to think this is a regular, you know, sword duel. You know, regular sword fight. Just dodging, rolling, trying to get off a few hits. You know, you want to pull that shit out when you feel like you're ready for it. And he almost got hit by that. Rolling R1, that range is great. You need to use it. See, you see him stop after I did that? He's like, what the fuck? Okay? Like, you can read people's minds in Dark Souls because it's such a deep, strategic game with levels of play. He just stopped there and was like, whoa, wait a minute. Sometimes giving people a lot to think about makes them screw up, you know? Using that bug pellet, I'm telling you, that really helps. You can probably play back certain parts of the video and look at the damage difference. That's what I'm talking about right there. It's interesting how when you use that, it forces people rather go towards you rather than side to side. Fortunately, I didn't have a good counter plan set up. I definitely got him with the second part of that 3-part attack whip. What the fuck's this guy doing? Anyway, I hope now that you actually see some of what I'm talking about with some combat footage, you can try and comprehend a little bit more the types of strategy and the depth of tactics I'm talking about with these weapons, and with how to utilize them to your advantage in manipulating your environment and the tempo of the battle. That is extremely important. See him moving side to side, he doesn't know what to do with this. You know, and that's what I'm talking about. That's where you get your hits. With the confusion, with versatility. So when you build a combat mage like this, that's what you're aiming for. You want to have that versatility to where you can attack close, medium, long, different distances, different types of spells, area of effect. You know, confuse the shit out of your opponent. He doesn't know what the fuck's coming next. Okay, that's the goal. That is the goal. Okay, this I thought was a really interesting fight, not because I decided to test out that retarded spell, but because this guy has that ridiculous sword, okay? And I've always had trouble dealing with it, but one of the things I realized in this fight is that you need to utilize the range of the whip to take advantage of him, because he doesn't have the ability to defeat that range. You know, he can try, but that weapon weighs a lot. It's gonna be hard for him to defeat that. And because it weighs so much, he does not have a backup weapon. He's still trying to maintain some semblance of armor. I don't know why I kicked the air there. So I would have killed him if I hadn't done that. You can see the range on that special attack is just ridiculous. That was clearly a lag hit. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this.